Morning, good evening. Here we are in this little window again. Okay, let's get this. Good morning, welcome to Sunday Night Live. Just call it live because these words like calendars and times are just so absurd. Anyway, welcome to the live show for the week, and reminder, right? In case you don't know, I'm sure you already know, but let's just go through it again. So we're on all the streaming, around all the social media platforms at Dr. Thomas Lodi, except for X and TikTok. We're at Dr. Thomas Lodi MD. Okay, and these are saved, so you'll be able to watch them later. And there'll be some AI with it, so you can fast forward to skip a lot of stuff you don't want to hear. All right, so that's it. And a reminder that anybody who has got active CFCs, chronically fermenting cells, aka cancer, it's not cancer, it's chronically fermenting cells. Anybody who's got that, then please contact Oasis, at least discuss your situation with them. And Oasis of Healing in Arizona. Been there about 20 years, and still the most comprehensive I can find. By the way, if anyone finds a place that's doing everything we're doing, let me know, because I'd love to talk with them. Sounds great. Anyway, so that's it. An Oasis of Healing in Arizona. And the next big thing is the groups. We have these groups, these membership groups. Currently it's CFC group, Parasite group, and the Health and Healing group. In those we have Zoom meetings, private meetings, where we all can talk, interact, ask questions, and we get to watch other people's questions answered, and the dialogue that is required to kind of fine-tune the question so we can fine-tune the response. All of that applies to all of us, because we're really all the same person. We're all I. There's only one I. So anyway, we learn a lot from each other. That's why we hang out together. We kind of like each other. We're stuck with each other. We don't like all of us, but don't want to be without us either, right? Those people, right? So anyway, that's that. And today so the format, we've changed the format a little bit. It's used to be just answering questions that were sent in. So now we're going to spend 1 hour doing that, and we'll spend the second hour doing Let's see why people hear you. There we go. How do I get a one? Unbelievable. The mic is not working.
Recording in progress.
The mic is not working. Hello, hello. 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 Is the mic working? Is the mic working, Hammy? Oh, God. Is it working? Come on. Come on. What? What is going on? The camera's not working. Okay. I only have one word, and I probably shouldn't say it here because is that nice? I don't really give up if it's nice or not. I don't want to be nice. It's not my goal in life. My goal is not to be nice. It's other goals. All right. The heck. It always pisses me off to be on this thing. Pisses me off. All right. Man, let's get into the questions because I can't deal with this stuff. Anyway, welcome to this incredible show. And what's wrong with this doctor? Huh? I can't even do a live stream after 5 years. Yeah, what's wrong with me? Anyway, so okay. So let's start with John. The topic is other. I have reason to believe I have a pigeon poop related sickness family. Sickness, namely cryptococcus, cryptococo. I'm not, yeah, and psittacosis. I'm sure you're familiar with these. After 25 years trying to get tested, I failed, so I'm appealing for your help. All right. Well, here's the thing. 25 years you've tried to get tested. What? I mean, where did you try to get tested? Why can't you get tested? What's going on with that? Uh, um, I don't know where that is. Where is that here? Is that here? Or is it here? Anyway, so when you say you try to get tested, what do you mean by that? I mean, what kind of doctor did you go to and what were they testing? Um, you know, all right, so okay, so listen, so you think you have a parasite, you think you got it from birds or is that okay? Okay, anyway, I can't find it. So please, you see, that's the thing. That's why we need to have these dialogues because I like to know what you had tested. Did you have your stool tested? Did you have your blood tested? Your saliva tested? Um, Now, there's one thing, and what more importantly, I wish you told me what kind of sickness you're having because that would help me understand what you're going through because I don't really know what sickness you have going on. But there is there is some testing now, and it's for people who really can't find out what the parasite is. Anyway, it's called the UPDX. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, right? The Universal Parasite Diagnostic. Um, and basically, it's based on the sequencing of the 18S DNA, or ribosomal DNA, and this particular gene is in all eukaryotes, and a eukaryote is an organism that has a nucleus in the cell. And there's a nucleus with other organelles like mitochondria and ribosomes and lysosomes and endoplasmic reticulum and what else? Anyway, all the organelles. So that's what a eukaryotic cell is, and a prokaryotic cell, which is really what bacteria usually are. They don't have a nucleus; they just have a cytoplasm. They have the stuff, and it's their outer membrane, the membrane of the cell, that actually functions like the mitochondria do for electron change and electron storage and to make ATP or energy. But all eukaryotic cells, so that's going to include funguses, that's going to include all plants, all animals of all kinds. Those are the eukaryotes. And so what they do is they do this what they call targeted deep applicon sequencing, right? So the 18S is the hallmark of a eukaryotic cell, and parasites are eukaryotic have eukaryotic cells. All right, so by looking for this, they can identify it in your blood or anywhere. And then there are 9 parts of this gene that are variable, and this unique variations that can get you down to understanding what the family is or the genus, and sometimes the species. But it's probably it's the most universal way of finding out about a parasite that you may have, and they can find it in your blood, they can find it in any fluid. But ask your doctor to get a UPDX, UPD, then little x for diagnosis, right? So it's universal parasite diagnosis, right? And anyway, because you remember that we have endoparasites and ectoparasites, right? Ectoparasites are like they're like insects and insect larvae and things like that. And then the endoparasites are the helminths, which are worms like nematodes. And then there's the apicomplexans and the pentosatomids and all that. And those are the endoparasites. So pretty much a good screening method. But it would really have been helpful if you had included your what you're going through, because see here, that's another. Just let me please bring this up right now, because where the heck is it? Where did I have you guys? Are you on? Where's everybody? Okay, go back here. There we are. Okay. So now, please, this is a really good point. Here, someone's asking a specific question, and if I give the answer, do you think the person is satisfied, and are you satisfied? So the answer is, go get a UPDX test. Okay, so they look at the 18S ribosome and that gene for producing ribosomes. And ribosomes are what? That's where proteins are packaged. All right, so the DNA gets translated into an RNA, which is taken to the ribosome, where they produce the protein. So in this case, it's how ribosomes are made. The ribosomes are important because they determine what proteins they produce, determine what the organism is.
Anyway, it just to know that. So by getting that answer, did that help? That probably not, because what would have been helpful is if I could say to you, so what are you feeling? What's your illness that you're talking about? When did it start? Is there anything that made it worse? And so by you know having that sort of discussion, we can really find out what you're really asking for. Because a lot of times what we think we're asking for is not what we really want to know, right? What we really want to know is I really want to understand it. Some people say, I don't care if I know about anything, just get rid of it. Well, that's not true, because if you don't really understand it and you get rid of it and you haven't changed anything you're doing, you just might wind up with it again. So, understanding is more important than a single answer to a specific question. Right? I mean, that's just common sense. Okay, now where are we? Where did this go? Is that it? Yeah, there we go. Okay, good. All right. So that's the question. Listen, I wanted to before we go on, I wanted to mention something to everyone. See if you're get away. Um, I wanted to mention something to everybody, and that is, yeah, okay. Here's what I wanted to mention. Uh, have you ever seen a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, maybe even a 5-year-old, playing like alone, and you'll see that they're chattering, right? They're kind of like narrating their situation, right? And they're saying, "Well, this go over here," and no, if they're with others, they do that sometimes too, or they're telling the other person. But if you see a child alone, you'll see that they're busy engaged in this monologue, a descriptive monologue of what's going on, and it's very disjointed. It has no like cohesion at all, right? It's this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that. Well, this dialogue that's happening externally, and I say dialogue because you were talking, and the listener is you also. So it's a dialogue. So um, this eventually gets internalized. Now, there was a guy by the name of Gurdjieff, and he had a student by the name of Uspensky. They were back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and philosophers. And a lot of the time they spent was on discussing was humanity's internal dialogue. So we all have an internal dialogue, right? And it's that internal dialogue that drives us absolutely crazy, because it's going nowhere. It has no form. It's been likened by Buddha as a fish that washed up onto the shore. It's flopping around and really energetically busy, going nowhere. And that's kind of what our thoughts are. If you could somehow put a microphone on your internal dialogue, you would hear you say, I was in this. I asked her that yesterday. No, he could have. No, it's like it doesn't make any sense. It's maddening. All right. And this is why we don't want to be alone with our thoughts. If we're alone, we're going to grab a book, iPad, TV, phone call, anything to be alone with our thoughts. Okay. So anyway, this internal dialogue is kind of narrating to you the illusion. Now, a lot of our internal dialogue, unfortunately, is about how others see us and how we appear. How do we look? How do we, and we're like, which is a very low level state of consciousness, because there's no internal anchor that is you. Who you are is defined by how people see you. So when you ask someone, how do I look, it means, how do I appear? It doesn't matter how I feel, how do I appear? And that should not be the focus of anyone's attention, on how you appear. Because appearance is what, to me, you might appear really great, and to somebody else would say, oh my God, right? So somebody who dyes their hair purple and wears very colorful clothes and has piercing and tattoos, might appear really fantastic to one group of people and appear the opposite to other people. So knowing how you appear is, well, beyond being useless, it's actually leads you in the wrong direction. It's gonna lead you in the direction of seeking to appear better, or what you view as, I mean, it's a complete absurd, vain way of existing. Okay, so that's that. And then the other internal dialogue is, just going over it. I remember when I was working in a psychiatric hospital, and there was this little child. His name was Eddie, and he was schizophrenic, and he had something called echolalia. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but echolalia is when it's part of their condition, and they kind of echo what they're hearing. And so he was just sitting there by himself, and he just says, "You're no good. You're no good, Eddie. Eddie, you're no good. You're not good, Eddie. You're not good." And he was saying that to himself. And so I realized that wherever he was from, whatever had happened, this is what he was hearing. And anyways, and so that leads me to what I want to say, and that is to really understand the power of words. Words carry energy, and they impart direction. They make reality your reality, because your reality is what you perceive. We're not talking about objective reality, because no one can ever know objective reality, because no one will ever be objective, because you are always subjective. You are always looking at it from your perspective. So there's no such thing as being objective. All right. But understand that the way we talk to ourselves and what we tell ourselves is what happens, because we have a computer. This computer is, we can talk about that one day, but it's unfathomable what our brains can do, but they're pretty good computers. And whatever you're telling it, it's going to do. And so however you're talking about yourself, if you're saying, I'm unlucky, and, I just got a bad thing, and or I'm not worthy, or, I'm not tall enough, or, if you're saying all these things to yourself, even if you're saying them in jest, but you're not, because remember, laughter, all laughter, all laughter, all laughter, all humor is rooted in tragedy. That's why when you see the mask for drama or for humor, you see the frown and the smile. Okay. And it has been said that the reason we laugh is so we don't cry. Anyway, what we're telling ourselves, what you tell yourself, is defining your perspective, your feelings, your attitude, your consciousness. And so if you're saying whatever you're saying to yourself, so stop. If all we have to do is stop, don't worry about, well, what should I say? Don't worry about affirmations or any of that stuff. Just let's stop harming ourselves by saying things about ourselves that are negative. And that's why I'm very very adamant about using words like cancer, because there's no meaning. It's just death, and it has no utility, and it wipes out your immune system, and it makes you incapable of healing. You cannot heal. Healing cannot happen, period. So the words are very powerful. They're powerful. Listen, every war we've ever had, every major war where millions upon millions of people have died, is because of words. All right, whatever the words that they're discussing in the Senate or the whatever, the royal, whatever they're discussing, and whatever decisions that come out, this is what happens. Words are what happens. Every war, every love affair, everything is founded upon words. Okay, well, so words are the reality of things. So you have to treat them as with the respect that they deserve. Okay, so our words are magic. And this is why, when we look at the word like grammar, what does the word grammar mean? What did grammar come from? Grammar came from the root of the word grammar, um, is because its original meaning was sorcery, magic. And basically that's because during the Dark Ages, when the clergy had control of knowledge, they had all the books, right? A few of the royals would learn how to read, but mostly it was the clergy. And the rest of the populace was illiterate, and therefore they depended upon the clergy for literacy, so for truth, for narratives, for stories, for life. I mean, your life there's a narrative to your story. In other words, and all that. And so, whatever the authorities define as, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, they define with words, so anyway, so the only people that could read books about knowledge, and then most of the knowledge in those days was considered esoteric, hidden meanings, so, but the only one who could read that were the educated, the clergy. All right. And so, and a lot of it was written in Latin. So they viewed this as the ability to read Latin was means you had access to this magic book of spells. So grammar really articulated spells you would put on people. And the word spelling and spell and incantation and, cursing, blessing. These things are the foundation of what happens. Okay. And sound is the most fundamental vibration. It's, physicists will argue and say, no. The electromagnetic waves are the foundation of, however, sound is actually subterranean to that. And by the way, sound doesn't have to be propagated by anything. It doesn't have to have a medium in which to propagate. I'm talking about sound. I'm talking about the sound that you don't hear, the underlying sounds. And believe me, there are sounds you don't hear, right? Aren't there sounds your dog hears that you can't? Yeah, and on the high spectrum and a low spectrum, yeah. So we're in a narrow, don't think, think. I mean, think. I'm sorry, don't say. This should say don't think. Think. Okay, we're in a very narrow spectrum on all the vibrational platforms. Okay, very narrow in electromagnetic, which we call visual, light. There's all kinds of stuff going on that we can't see. Right there, the dog can see it, and in terms of sound as well. All right. So we're on channel 4, period. We're on channel 4. We're never going to know what's going on channel 6, never, unless we leave this channel. Anyway, what keeps us in our channel, what keeps us in our perspective, what keeps us thinking and feeling the way we do is our language. It's our language. That's what does it. So be very, very respectful of that and love yourself. Talk to yourself like you were talking to somebody who was not well and wanted to get well. Talk to yourself as if you were talking to a young child. Talk to yourself with love and kindness, if you're saying things to yourself that are negative, like, I'm not worthy, I'm really unlucky, I never get things done, I procrastinate. If you're saying those things, these are not your thoughts that you originated. These are things you've heard from others or things that you've imagined others are saying about you. And so you're externally motivated. If I need to look into your eyes to find out who I am, I'm never going to find out who I am. So be kind. Stop hurting yourself. You know in your heart who you are. You know who you are. You just want to be loved, and you want to love, and you want to care for someone. You want someone to care for you. You know that. You know your whatever other stuff you're doing. I don't care if you're in the money or whatever, beyond that, what do you want it for? In the end, what do we want? Whatever we want for, we want it because we want that sense of that only love can bring. Yes. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into this because I know a lot of people are stamping their feet and saying, "Governor, I want, how many do I take on Monday morning?" Let's get back to the questions, which are again are not relevant. What's relevant is the questions allow us to have dialogues, to discuss things, and to learn. And the beautiful thing about asking a question is if you're truly asking a question, then you're truly listening. And if you're truly listening, you have shut up inside, you stop thinking. So when you don't understand what someone's saying, it's probably because you're not listening. Unless, of course, they're like me and don't make any sense. But anyway. So anyway, let's get back to here. Old John and John, you believe that it may be related to that. So here's the thing. Suppose you found out that it was, I don't know, silicosis. What would you do? Differently than you have. I mean, is there any? I mean, have you tried to deal with that as if he had it? That would be, that would be the thing to do, right? I'm sure you've tried that, and somehow you've excluded the possibility of being, uh, I don't know, exposed to cats and toxoplasmosis, or you've excluded everything, and you've come down to this, right? So, anyway. Um, so I mean, you join the groups. You got join the group, join the health and healing group, join the parasite group. So we can talk about this, okay? But if you think it was pigeons, they carry lots of stuff in their feces. One of them is a certain form of chlamydia, and you know, and these organisms are usually treated with the drugs from the tetracycline family, which is tetracycline, doxycycline, minocycline. Um, that's what they're usually treated with. But if they're not working, you can always switch over to like Bactrim, which is trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole, which is a well-known drug that's used for uh, bladder infections, things like that. But that's what I'm really unclear about, John, is uh, if you suspect these two things, then I'm sure you've taken medicine that would take care of that. And if it hasn't taken care of it, then I can see why you're still looking. But I think you should maybe take off your glasses that are focused on this particular parasite, and just open it up and say, well, look, hey, I just want to find out what's going on. And then open yourself, because it might not be that, it might be something else. And if you did that, but if you use that test I was talking about, the UPDX, right, the Universal Parasite Diagnosis, you likely to find out. They check your blood, your serum. So go do that. Okay. Next question is from Larissa, and the topic, of course, is other. Thank you very much. Big fan of the podcast. Thank you. And as an acupuncture physician, great. I am very interested in learning more so I can educate my patients. Is there a book or resources you recommend I read regarding both the germ theory and why you don't believe in it, as well as the Rockefeller Change the Landscape? I'd love to hear more on these topics. Fantastic, Larissa. Do you know that's pretty much what I'm talking, what I'm like, I'm really like the other book, the coming Dark Ages, I put on hold for a while, just because I need to finish a true second opinion. But in this true second opinion, which I'm just like a week away, if I can just get a week away, it'll be done. But I cover everything you're saying, the germ theory uh, which morphed into the disease theory, and I trace all the committees that were existed in that time, and that influenced Abraham Flexner to write his final paper, which was approved by Osler, William Osler, considered the greatest diagnostician to ever wield the stethoscope. So bizarre. So bizarre. Anyway, The medical profession is in love with themselves, which is really weird. They're in love with themselves, and yet they're like the worst of all professions. Imagine you go to a doctor when you're 20 years old with diabetes, and now you're 50 years old and you still have diabetes, but you're taking all this medicine, and he keeps switching them around. Would you do that with your car, or would you kind of change mechanics? Yeah, you know, we keep going back to the guys, right? Well, this isn't working. Well, let's try that. It's like anyway, so they have no idea what they're doing, but they're in love with themselves. It's a very bizarre thing. Very bizarre. And what's even more bizarre is they got us to love them or to respect them or to follow them or to believe them. You know, you can't believe a doctor. First of all, doctors, uh, if they're like intelligent and coherent, cogent, then they're going to be telling you what they've learned, and what they've learned is not true. So there you go. Number one. Number two, if they're either that or they're telling you stories that they know are lies. Uh, no, and by the way, because when they tell you whatever they tell you is a lie, they don't know. They can't, they're gonna tell you that if you don't do this, that's gonna happen to you. How do they know? They don't know. They don't know. I promise you, they don't know. And if they say you're gonna die in 3 months if you don't do what I say, again, that's a lie. The problem with it is that you believe it. And the reason you believe it is because you grew up in the Rockefeller web, and you think that these guys and ladies with their white coats are special. But they think they're special too. And their mothers think they're special too. Me? Nah, I don't think they're special. I think they are special. I think they're special. And that we could do without that speciality in our lives. All right. So, uh, anyway, hey, so Larissa, it's coming up very soon. I will, but because I kind of I went through all of the the literature I could find in this area, and I've been doing it for like 40 years, 50 years. I've been interested in this stuff. So long before the great hoax of 2020, long before all that. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, I knew what was coming because that was what they wanted to do. Um, you know, when I was like, I grew up in LA, so I remember like 18, 19 years old, we used to talk about Bohemian Grove up in Northern California. Bohemian Grove is one of those few places on earth that you can't get into unless you're a member of the elite. And it's where they have child sacrifices right on the lawn. I mean, across the river, people are watching it. I mean, it doesn't matter because these are the guys that run the world. And they're like, remember something about the law. The law, right? Statutory law that is enacted by governing bodies, by legislators, is meant to control the masses. It's meant to control the peasants, all right? Because they are above the law. I promise you. Bill Clinton will never go to court. Obama, never. Fauci, never. None of them. F. How about these guys, the presidents or prime ministers or whatever they are, who announce that they're at war with another country, and what they're going to do is they did, with their words, they just instigated the murder of millions of people. And the law is irrelevant. So understand that about the law. That's statutory. Uh, uh anyway, I'm gonna be Larissa, you'll love it. So it'll be out soon. Okay, I'm gonna just do a self thing, self-publishing. Okay, this is Gina. But understand something, Larissa. Rockefeller was a genius, and his son. senior and junior pretty much. Well, they had a little help from their buddies and the Rothschilds, stuff like that, who have been good at it for a long time. So these people are anyway, they wove together this whole method, and we can't get out of it. You're stuck in it. And I talk to people every day, and they ask me questions using those words. If I answer questions using those words, then there's no answer. It leads to death. The Rockefeller death train ends at the morgue, and as long as you're using their words, you're on your way to the morgue. What treatment? New drug? Prognosis? Remission? I get blood tests. That's all the myth. That's not what's going on at all. If you use those words, you are on the death train. Gina, pancreatic CFCs. Okay, nuts. How can someone shrink a pancreatic solid pseudopapillary neoplasm to avoid Whipple procedure? Gina, that's a good question. I'm glad you haven't had a Whipple procedure yet. But the way you can shrink it is, and you don't really want to shrink it. Here's what you want to do. Let's change the language right away from the beginning. What you want to do, Gina, is you want to be restored to, or if you've never had it, true health. And true health is optimal functioning. You want to be optimally functioning, which means there won't be any cysts or masses anywhere, and there won't be any sore joints or depression, runny nose, whatever. Okay, so health. We're talking about health. That's our goal, is health. And so in your case, what you can see is the tumor in the pancreas, but there are other things going on in your body too that you want to, because that didn't just out of just spontaneously arise out of a healthy environment. See, one of the things that the disease models has us believing is that we're healthy. We're just plain old healthy, pure, perfect health, except this disease got into me. And this disease is like blocking my health. And I can get rid of the disease, I'm healthy. This is the implicit thing about the disease theory, which is insane. All right. So, again, but how do we shrink it? So, well, if you've been watching at all, you'll know we're going to start with cleansing, because we know that these things, these CFCs, chronically fermenting cells, Gina, don't use that other word, zoological sign. You are not a zoological sign. You have a zoological sign. I don't know what it is, but you have one, but you are not a zoological sign. And there's no zoological signs in your body, I promise you. Right? You think you have a Cancer here, and you've got a Leo over here, and a little Virgo over here, and you found a Scorpio on your back. Is that what you think? No, we don't have these things. So please don't use their ridiculous, absurd words, because you're not ridiculous and absurd. They are. Okay. All right. So now, so how do we shrink it? We want to shrink it. In other words, we want it to go away. All right. So if we want it to go away, we have to do what? We have to first stop feeding it. Stop letting it happen. I mean, giving it the environment in which to exist. It's our body. So you change the environment, and it can't exist. You cannot grow tomatoes in the desert unless under if you built a greenhouse, but other than that, you just can't grow. All right. So just keep that in mind. So the first thing we have to do is get rid of all the toxins. That starts with your mouth. Biological dentists go to IAOMT, International Association, International Organization of Medical Toxicology or something. But anyway, they're the ones that train dentists to become biological dentists. Okay, so you got to go there, get a cone beam, make sure everything's okay there, get that taken care of. Then you've got to do a thorough cleanse. And then you've got to a thorough cleanse. And then you've got to make sure your body's getting all the appropriate nutrients, so all the tissues are vibrantly healthy. Because because something that is an example of toxicities and stuff like that. That's what it is. It's become a toxic mass. Can't exist in health. The health, there's nothing for it. It has no food. It has no, it doesn't have a context. So, but you're going to do that, and then there are other therapies we can use to target and shrink them down really well. But you can do intravenous high dose vitamin C if you're taking vitamin C every. And of course, you've got to be taking the vitamin C, the mixed carotenoids, lutein, zeaxanthin, all and alpha, beta, gamma, carotene. So all the carotenes. B complex is good, and the vitamin C, 2 grams of sodium ascorbate liposomal 4 times a day, and the D 50,000 units a day at least. E, the mixed the carfos and tocotrienols. Then you get your melatonin on board. You got to build your way up to melatonin, and then you've got to get your thyroid balanced and functioning, and your adrenal glands, because all of those guys are the managers, the commanders of the immune system. So they govern the immune system. And excuse me. So by getting rid of the toxins and making sure you've got all the nutrients you need, because believe me, if you had enough ascorbate, which is vitamin C, if you had adequate amounts, like your fasting ascorbate was greater than 50 micromoles per liter, if you had that, you could not have developed the CFCs. Couldn't happen. So we better get back to that. We need to let's get adequate amounts, and we need the vitamin E, and melatonin, balance the thyroid, adrenals. And if you're over 40, use some thymus peptide, TA1 times an optimum. Go to bed early. It's always the same thing. But if you do all this stuff, now, one might ask, why is it that we have had such wonderful results with people who have pancreatic tumors? The common story of pancreatic CFCs is not very long. It's not a long story. And that's just not that's not what we see. I had I've mentioned this before. I had an orthopedic surgeon from San Diego. We were in Arizona, who had stage 4 pancreatic CFCs. He said, "Look, I don't have time for this. Can you fix me?" Anyway, 8 weeks he was back at work. Now, the reason is, I think, it's everything, because you can't find it. You can't say it's one thing or two things. It's everything. However, I think one of the most completely overlooked and powerful I guess the effect of this is so powerful that by changing it, you change the course of it. Now, what I'm talking about is the gastrointestinal tract. I'm talking about that tube that begins at our lips and ends at our anus. It's approximately 30 feet long, or 10 meters. All right. The last 1.5 meters or the last 5 feet is the colon, where all the stool is, the waste. And the rest of it is small intestines, esophagus. So it's long. And part of what they call accessory organs of digestion are like the liver and the pancreas. They're accessory because they don't actually hold the stuff that you eat doesn't go through them. They just contribute. It's not like the gastrointestinal tract where it's actually going through them and it's being processed. So anyway, so all of the organs of digestion, the gastrointestinal tube, the lung tube, and its accessory organs can heal. Yeah, they're all made to heal. We are self-healing mechanisms, that we're divinely made that way, right? And so if that's not happening, then why would that happen? Because we're designed to heal. If we're not healing, it means what? It's one way or another being blocked. So what's blocking my healing? Is what I need to find. Otherwise, it's innate. You cut your finger, it heals. All right. It doesn't matter what you get, it heals. That's the nature of nature. It's a innate aspect of biology. All right. So what I think is, by not eating, but having a period of fasting and then a period of juicing, you're putting zero to minimal requirements on your gastrointestinal system. Therefore, it's got lots of energy left over to do things that it should do. For example, the pancreas now would have extra energy, and it would start producing its enzymes and releasing them systemically, where they'd have powerful effects. All right. So I can see they're saying pseudopapillary neoplasm to avoid Whipple. Now, and remember so you don't need the Whipple procedure. And if I don't know what they tell people about the Whipple procedure, excuse me, but the Whipple procedure, they take. So the pancreas, it's got CFCs. So they take the end of the stomach tube, the pylorus, and they route it around, and they skip over the duodenum, which is where all the breakdown of food occurs. Everything you've eaten, and not chewed, you just gulped or whatever. But even if it's got to be broken down into molecules of really small stuff, because it will only absorb like, single molecules, usually like one amino acid, sometimes two amino acids. It doesn't absorb complex things. It needs to break them down. So yeah, anyway. So but by not eating and cleansing, or just doing juice, you're requiring very little work on your pancreas. So your pancreas can devote its time to healing. I think that, and you're also blocking or shielding it from the daily, um, not only the work of digesting, but also to the fact that most of us eating foods that are no longer really what they look like and what they used to be. So yeah, we're just, and that's why so when you rest the pancreas, it has a chance to heal. And any organ, anything that is out of balance and sick and adapting, that's what it needs. So now, in your case too, I don't know if you've got uh, on the head, I guess it must be on the head of your pancreas if they want to do Whipple. But so understand, so when they bypass the duodenum where all the digestion takes place, they're going to put it into the jejunum, which is the second part of the small intestines. And the jejunum was not meant to, or it's not designed, doesn't have the equipment to digest. I mean, to break things down into molecular sizes that can be absorbed, etc. The jejunum's job is to absorb that which the duodenum already processed. So when they do a Whipple procedure, or the other one they do is, I think it's a similar one for obesity. But anyway, if anybody out there has had a Whipple, understand you can't eat regular food because it hasn't been processed by your body, by your duodenum, to be the appropriate form for absorbing it. So if you're eating something that, even if you chew well, it still hasn't been broken down into its constituent parts. And the jejunum is not capable of doing that, so it can't do it. I mean, so you can't rest your jejunum. I mean, you can rest your whole GI tract by not eating. Fasting is number one. Number two would be juice cleansing, fresh juices, and just drink a lot of them. And sometimes that's the easiest thing to do when you're first starting out and you're first learning about all this stuff. So, um, what you need to do, Gina, if you're in the U.S., give a call to our clinic at Oasis Healing, or you can make an appointment with me. We can have a long discussion. I can look at your medical history and your labs and everything, give you some guidance. But it sounds like uh, you already know a lot. You know a lot. You know what kind of uh, mass is in there because you had a biopsy to be able to name it. Remember, naming the reason they do a biopsy is just to name things. They need to get a name. They need to get a name so that they can stick it on their algorithm. All right. So, but anyway, just to let you know, Gina, it's actually quite straightforward. It's not difficult. The hardest part of any of this for anyone is making up your mind to do it. And the reason you're going to have trouble making it up is because your mind's been filled or your whole life with lies. Right? Because I've known people that say, well, I went and got the surgery, radiation, and chemo because I had no choice. And the reason you believe that you have no choice is because they told you if you don't do this, you're going to be dead in 6 months. So you did have a choice. But the reason you had trouble with it is because you weren't informed. So that's what we will do. So in our groups also, we have these private Telegram groups that we're all talking to each other, like all day long. And and there's so many smart people in there. I mean, people that have really, okay. Where I'm on the HC. Where am I? I changed cameras. Wait, what what camera did I change? What is this? Wait a minute. Wait. Come on. Virtual. Yeah. Here we are. Wow. Anyway. So, Gina, the good news is yes, you can. And you don't have to avoid and the Whipples are the problem is they're troublesome the rest of your life, diarrhea and stuff like that. Unless you learn how to process. So what we would do is teach you how to prepare the food. You're not going to get a Whipple. You're going to come to us and you won't get a Whipple. But or if you're wherever you are, if we we have a consultation, I'll help you figure out how you can, we can find, together I can help you vet a doctor that would help and, and locate the other things you need. But in any case, you're not going to get it. But what would we do with someone who has had a Whipple and the food has to bypass the duodenum and go into the jejunum? Well, then we've got to do what we've got to do to the food what the duodenum would have done, and that is it would have used lots of enzymes to break it down into smaller parts, right? So a protein, which is 100 or more amino acids, has got to be broken down into single amino acids. It's just the way it is. You can't eat a protein. You can't eat a protein. You got to break it down and then you can absorb the amino acids. You can't eat a protein or a peptide. You can't eat complex carbohydrates. You've got to break them down into simple carbohydrates. That's just the way it is. Same with fats. You can't just eat fat and get anything out of it. It's got to be broken down, into micelles with little fatty acids. Anyway, so that's what we have to do with the food before you eat, eat it, and it goes into your jejunum. So then your jejunum has can deal with it. It knows how to absorb it. But if you put food in there that hasn't been duodenalized, then it's just too big and it's just too bulky, and you wind up getting diarrhea. It's called osmotic diarrhea. Okay, so now here is John. John says, I'm 73 years of age. I have suffered with osteoarthritis since birth. That's not possible, John. I'm not, I'm just laughing at the concept. Someone probably told you that. Osteoarthritis is wear and tear arthritis. That's what it is. It's to be distinguished from rheumatoid arthritis, or, and there's different kinds of arthritides, uh, but osteoarthritis is wear and tear arthritis. So it's joints that are overused. So like my father was a printer, he worked at a printing press, so he was bending up and down, so his knees, so that you get osteoarthritis. So and it happens with the reason we say that happens with age is because it takes a lot of abuse for it to get to the point of being inflamed. So to have had osteoarthritis at birth, I mean, you did your bones were just formed, and the joints were just formed, so they had not yet been exposed to weight bearing or gravity, so there could be no osteoarthritis. Now, did you have some sort of arthritis or something? Yes, but maybe, but that's very, very rare for a In 1981, I experienced an accident in the Scottish mountains, which caused my right leg to fold to the complete opposite direction, from which I partially recovered. In 1908, I underwent an osteotomy. Since then, I've developed spondylitis. I have had poor memory issues for, I think, the same time of time. Around 2 years ago, the knee injury of 81 flared up, and haven't been able to walk properly since, and I am in constant pain. I know I seem a complete write-off, but I know the Lord still has a plan for me, so hopefully you'll help guide me. Respectfully yours, John. Absolutely, John. I do respectfully to you as well. Um, and I won't what write you off. Well, first of all, I've never said that term, so I wouldn't. But I didn't write you on, so I can't write you off. But am I going to ignore you or to think that you're crazy? No, not at all. Not at all. So that accident that you had in 1981, you said your leg went the opposite. That you mean from the hip or from the knee? Because I can't imagine the hip going all the way back. That would be like crazy. And you partially recovered from it. Sounds like it might be your knee, but and even that, like to go all the way the other way, it just sounds so painful. So see, that would constitute osteoarthritis because it had wear and tear, abruptly, but and then you've walked on it since, so you've added to the little micro traumas every day. So that would be an osteoarthritis. So now, excuse me, it was really weird. I woke up at 2:30 a.m. and I looked at my clock and I thought, no, I thought it was 2:30 in the afternoon, and I overslept. So I'm rushing around. I looked, it's dark outside. And then I never went back to sleep. So I'm tired. Sorry. How about that? And then your memory issues. So you're 73. Okay, so shouldn't have memory issues. But this other thing with so it's knee. So it must have been your knee that went through that. Being pushed in the opposite direction. So I'd like to ask you if you've had X-rays and Is the cartilage in the joint wearing out? Do you have just bone on bone? Because pain, it can be extremely painful when it's bone on bone in the knee joint. Any of the large joints for weight bearing of the whole body are going to be painful. So, all right. So the main two things are the poor memory, cognitive decline, and the extreme pain. It's extreme pain, and you can't walk. So here's the thing, John. This is good news. The good news is the unfortunate news is what you just described to us, but the really fantastic news is that there's 100% way out of this. And the only problem is, I want you to quickly run into the bathroom and look in the mirror, and you'll see what the only problem is. The only problem is that we usually are not willing to do what's right, and we come up with all kinds of excuses to fool ourselves, right? Isn't that cool? Glass jar they give you. This vegan store makes fresh juices in glass. I mean, like, wow. Uh, okay, so what you need to do immediately is you got to go to a biological dentist, John. IAOMT. Find a certified, not just a member, a certified member of IAOMT near you, and find out what's going on in your mouth, because 100%. Then you've got to do a good, thorough, long juice cleanse to clean out your body, to get rid of all the toxins that you've accumulated over 73 years. And that's basically what happens to human beings. We accumulate toxins. Our ability to eliminate decreases, and in our world, we've had a continuous increase in exposure to toxins from everywhere, every direction in our lives, right? So you've got to clean that out. Now, your joint, if I understand right, your hip, your knee, like if this is a normal knee, right? Your knee went like this, and then they put it back together. I think you still have your patella, right? Your kneecap and all that. So I'm not sure of the condition, but you do a thorough declox, and I'll tell you what will happen. Most of your pain will be gone. If you did anywhere from a 4 to 6 week juice cleanse, drinking nothing but fresh vegetable juices with enough fruit to make it delicious. Use lemons, use whatever you want, but at least have celery, cucumber, spinach, and kale as the base with lemon. And if you don't, you can use apples or whatever, but make it delicious. And go 4 to 6 weeks. You will not, you'll be, I mean, call me after that. Let's talk. You're going to be blown away. All right. So that's the beginning. And get your colon clean, find a colon hydrotherapist, and or do enemas, that daily saltwater enemas. Go to bed by 9. And once you have completed the juice cleanse, you think you want to finish, talk to me a couple days in advance so that we can, help you with the transition. But there's a specific way you have to transition. It has to do mostly with what they call refeeding. Because refeeding, after you've not eaten, well, that's water. Actually, I'm sorry, it won't apply to you with juice. You don't need to worry about refeeding because you've been eating the whole time. Juice is just liquid food. But do that, and then if we've got some real anatomic damage in that knee, which it sounds like we must, then we can talk about, there's ways of doing stem cell injections, and there's different kinds of prolotherapy, and so there are lots of things that we can do, but we need to, get the body balanced and healthy and harmonically sound again, and then that would happen. But yeah, here in Thailand, where they've been using stem cells for decades because they didn't have any moral constraints. Can you imagine? The United States is the one that exports its culture and its morals. Yes, that's weird. That's weird. You know why that's weird? Because the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Yeah, I lost my speakers. Anyway, um, now with regarding now when you detoxify too, and then I want you to get up on all. You join the groups. Join the group. Come on, join the groups, John. Um, go to drlodi.com and just join the group. Just join the health and healing group. The other thing you want to do is take. You got your score base, your score. What I just said to that other person is applicable to you and to who else? Him and her. And who else? Oh, the humans. This is like information. This is like human information. Okay. Your memory will get better, but there are peptides you can use for memories. You just have to find a doctor that's knows about them and prescribes them. There's cerebrolysin, there's C-Max, there's C-Link, there is well, I forget now, but there are lots of peptides. And remember, everyone, peptides are not drugs or even botanical extracts. Peptides are little chains of amino acids that we make in our bodies. We normally make them. We make them. We make over 300,000 peptides. Insulin's a peptide, so uh and we make about 30,000 proteins. But so anyway, what we're talking about is a peptide that's naturally produced. So even though it has to be administered, either you give yourself a little injection or pills or whatever, and it looks like it would, like medicines are, it's not a medicine, it's a peptide. And it just enhances your body's functioning. Right. So, and they're nasal, so you can inhale them. But what they do is they kind of sharpen you, and make you more, you have more access to your memory and you can focus more easily. I read a study recently, in, I think it was a pharmacology journal or psychiatry journal. Anyway, they were talking about drugs such as Ritalin and Adderall and these other drugs. They're for ADD, ADHD. Blah, blah, blah. And what's interesting is that they're called they give it to children who are having a hard time focusing, and so this is to help them focus. And that's not what they do. So the studies have now found that it doesn't. What these drugs do is they prioritize uh, feeling good. And so the idea is this: if you feel really good, you won't mind doing a task that you hate. That's what they think, right? So for kids, so that's the mechanism by which it's working. It's not really causing us to uh, concentrate or think more clearly. So anyway, but the peptides do, C-Max and C, like they do. So there's those things you can do, John, and you need to go through chelation. So we can really tune you up, so you'll be on this group when you're 103. It's not an exaggeration. Thank you for sending that question in. Now this is Atanda. What time is it? Okay. Oh wow. All right. So here, this is real quick. This is Atanda from it's on Parapet. Hi, doctor. I'm a Nigerian and I have no access to benbendazole. I have a 50% chance with customs reporting. but I got a dog dewormer containing fenbendazole, praziquantel, and pyrantel palmitoyl. The issue is dosage. It's 10 kilograms, 10 per tablet. You mean 10 milligrams, I think. I weigh 60 kilograms. So what the dosage is 10 milligrams, let's say you're saying, per tablet. Which one? Not the praziquantel, the parental palmitoyl, the fenbendazole. I'm not sure what, or maybe wait, it's only 10 milligrams? Hello at drlodi.com. Hello at drlodi.com. And my assistant Fa will help you get these, okay? All right. So I'm glad you asked that, because for everybody's sake as well. I mean, it sounds like you've got a tablet that has a mixture, right? It's got the praziquantel, the pyrantel palmitoyl, and the fenbendazole. Those others are not going to hurt you at all if you could get the right dosing. But the right dosing is, they usually say 10 milligrams per kilogram about. If you're 60, that would be what, 120, 120, something like that. I'm not thinking clearly yet. Anyway, you can figure it out. But listen, feel safe. You're an adult. Feel safe to take the fenbendazole, like 222 milligrams 3 times a day. And then, the praziquantel, you can go up to 600 milligrams. So I don't think you're going to get those. It's going to be hard to get the appropriate dosing of each one when they're in one pill or one paste. So if you could somehow, communicate, and so you don't know if customs will get it in. Actually, I wish you would join our groups, because there's so many resources, and we have people living in Australia who are, they know who all the best doctors are and stuff like that. So I'd be really fantastic. But like I said, praziquantel 600 milligrams 3 times a day, fenbendazole 222 milligrams 3 times a day. And you don't need the pyrantel palmitoyl. It's superfluous. Those two, and I would also add in niclosamide and at least one antiprotozoal like nitazoxanide. And again, that would be 500 milligrams 3 times a day. So, and all right, okay. Dr. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with familial, hypercalciuria, hypercalcemia. I get really sick if I get dehydrated or super stressed. The type of work I do is very active, and my life is just stressful. I've lost so many jobs because of literally taking control of my body and mind. I needed to get back. Okay. I need to get to the root of it. I never received COVID vaccine. Good. No one did. I'm a healthy person besides this random thyroid problem. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is not thyroid. You mean parathyroid? You're talking about calcium. Calcium is parathyroid. You do know that, right? Okay. All right. Well, here's the thing. if you actually do have this familial condition and you are, just urinating it out, excess calcium, uh, then what we need to do is we need to ensure that you're having adequate intake and that you are of vegetables that would have calcium, and there's a lot. But if they come in a package, when I mean packaged process, I mean like if you have these raw vegetables, and they could be marinated in, this, kind of like a sprout, sour, what is it called, sauerkraut. So it's like a sauerkraut or kimchi type sauce, you know. Um, but anyway, um, you want to start. You got to, your digestion has to be really taken very seriously. So make sure you have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach before you eat. You take a couple tablets, 15 minutes before you eat, then take a lot of enzymes afterwards. But you know, and vitamin D, lots of vitamin D, and you got to get your hormones balanced too. All right. So, because we want to maximize the or utilize the most out of your parathyroids, which are apparently sick. Now, I don't know, did you get a PTH or calcitonin levels? Did you get any kind of levels to support what they're saying? Or they biopsied it. Uh, so you get really sick if you've lost so many jobs because of literally taking control of my body and mind. And I need to get to the root of this. I never received one COVID vaccine. All right. So I'm happy you didn't get the vaccine. It's not a vaccine, the injection. I'm glad you did get that. But nevertheless, what we need to do is cleanse. Now, I don't know if you actually have a genetic condition or not. And if you do, we just need to realize that there'll be limitations on ultimate recovery, the way you'll be. But we still get you, healthy and enjoying your life. Um, so, Tyler, there's another situation where you might want to have a consultation. I'd be happy to go through your records and talk to you more. So, let me see. Yeah, okay, where are we? Let's take some questions now from the live group. All of the people who are online. Oh, there we go. Excuse me. Should I start bottom? I mean, top. Sorry, noisy. Thank you, Gels. I've been diagnosed with spasmodic dysphonia. Lost my voice. This is from uh, Jane Ahrens. Diagnosed with spasmodic dystonia. Lost my voice for over 4 years. This is she jumping around for. Where'd it go? Okay, there we go. So you lost your voice 4 years ago. A stool blood parasite testing, all negative. I've addressed heartburn with HCl, but also on Cellcore Web. Anyway, what is uh So spasmodic dystonia, what did you notice it coming on? I mean, it wasn't like I mean things don't just, spontaneously happen overnight. So had you noticed like for a few years or something that your words may have been sounding a little funny when they come out? The reason I ask these questions is because I don't trust doctors, and I just don't. Yeah, I just don't trust them. So I just, let's find out. Is there any way you can do it? Can we, let me find you again. No, God. All right. So anyway, what have they given you for spastic dystonia? I just wish I could talk to you guys and find out what's going on. Where was that spastic dystonia? Where is that? Oh, I'm sorry, it was right here. God. I'm, there we go. Okay, good. So now I don't know. So if you haven't been able to speak for a while, that means that you have. Did they do surgery? What did they irradiate you? Is it what did they do? Because I really don't. I don't quite know where you're at, so it's hard to answer a question. Uh, I don't. So that your stool and blood test was negative for parasites. So if you really think you have parasites, get that the same test I was telling the other guy about, which is um, it's a universal parasite diagnosis, UPD. Yes, a UPD little X. But that's a test that it's pretty accurate considering because it looks at antibodies and things like that. So where are we? Now here's one. This is Douglas. I've been to a few doctors and they couldn't see with naked eyes. Said nothing. There is, but I'm pulling handcuffs, handfuls by the bucket day after day for almost 2 years. Countless hours, or the countless hours it consumes most of my life. It sometimes becomes close to the edge. Quite often, that's it. I feel invisible, driving me crazy. All right, so Douglas, I'm not sure. We again, this is unfortunately, there's nothing specific for me to really deal with. I would like to talk to you, Douglas. I wish you could join a group. Uh, I hate not being able to answer questions. I just don't have enough information. And here's Scooby, making a suggestion that you should probably go to a psych hospital. Well, not necessarily, Scooby, because sometimes they're not what they claim to be. Can you believe that? Hard to believe. Uh, but nonetheless, Douglas, whatever you're going through is real. You feel it, and it's disturbing your life. So I'd be happy to have a consultation with you so I can understand more, and I can give you the right direction. I just don't understand right now. You probably need to go to this psych. What? Me? Oh, you probably need to go see a psych hospital. I hope you're not talking to me. Scooby. You love your purple hair. Beautiful. Okay, I've had no. This is from Joe. I've had no sense of taste for going on 6 months now. Any advice on the cause and how to get it back? Eating has become very depressing experience. Well, actually, I don't. I hope I don't offend you and all that, but I would say that's really, in a way, of good fortune because what usually brings us to our knees and to our death is our appetite. Our appetite is deadly, and if you lost your taste and food, eating of food no longer becomes like so central in your life, uh, then you can say, well, if they look at if it's all going to taste bad, I might as well eat the healthy stuff. But anyway, so zinc is very helpful. Zinc has been known to both for smell and taste. And when you say you don't smell, 90% of 80 to 90% of taste actually is smell. Because on our taste buds, we only have like four, there's arguably five tastes, bitter, sour, sweet, salty, and what they're calling savory, which is relatively new. But in any case, those are the only things we can taste on our tongue. Every other nuance of the experience of food, the non-eating experience of food, is a combination of olfaction, which is smelling, and taste. That's the combination. That's what we're experiencing. So I'm not sure. Are you saying that you have no taste with your tongue? Doesn't taste salty or sweet or sour or bitter, right? It's only. I mean, if that's it, then that's definitely taste. And then if you're saying that, so I'm just wondering, are you able to, how's your smell? I wish we could talk. Like, nobody can write in here. Isn't there a way to like write in here so that we could? Oh, there must be a way that I can watch your answers. You know, the only other things that it could be are, uh, you know, like a bizarre response, allergic response. But again, I don't know yet if it's nose, if it's nasal. Are you missing the odors of food, the fragrances of food, give them another dimension of a sensory input for us. They're not only round, or green or red and beautiful, but they're easy to hold, easy to bite. I mean, uh, so listen, so as I said, allergies, nasal polyps, things like that. Um, the nutritional deficiencies that we think of, are usually the zinc, iron, and B12. But I'm assuming you've got all that. So please, if can you answer me on here? Is it possible for me to see you answer me about whether or not where's the there? I can't see if Douglas is answering. All right, I guess Joe, you can't answer me. I mean, because this sounds like a serious problem, and I'd like to help you, but I can't. You have to, yeah, I have to know what we're talking about. All right, let's meet this thing. Um, all right, so here's this is from shock. A friend in Lebanon or London has appendix CFC, and she's had an operation to remove it and her colon. They were going to start her on chemo. What do you advise her to do? Um, well, I advise her to deal with this um in the manner that it deserves, which is holistically to know that you know her entire body is connected as one system. Um, right, so that the healing has to happen from a system wide perspective, so that it's basically a healthy situation, and you're not going to have, and if it's getting all the nutrients it needs, then it's not going to be producing this poisoned fruit. But when you say the appendix, so um, and I think I've showed this, I've shared the screen many times with people, but I can't do it in this format. But when you look at the small intestines, it enters the last part of the colon of the small intestines, which is where the cecum sits. When the chyme, that the food that you've eaten, goes in through the small intestines into the large intestines, finally, there's a little valley there called the cecum. Hanging off that is called the appendix, and the appendix is the nursery for if something were to happen, we lost our healthy bacteria, and that can happen from antibiotics, surgery, being in the hospital, taking medications. So that's not uncommon at all. Um, where'd you go? Where'd you go? So they're going to start her on chemo. What do you advise her to do? She's early 40s. Okay, so they had an operation. So they had an operation. They had an operation to remove it and part of her colon. They are going to start her on chemo. Oh. Okay, so right now you're talking about them. You see what the language is. They are going to start her. They are control of all this. What is her role? Well, her role is the one that says, no, I don't want to do it. Or, yeah, sure, I'll do it. All right. And so even though I appreciate your question, we really can't answer it or get into it or it's just an academic exercise, because if she's not interested, do you know that she's interested? Would she consider doing something else? Because there's it's going to be really hard to piece it together in your home, wherever your hometown is. But yeah, you need, what I've said before: the vitamin C, the vitamin D, A, E, melatonin. Get your thyroid and your adrenals working, and do a good long prolonged water cleanse, and you'll be absolutely amazed. Absolutely amazed. All right, now here's one. This is Mary, stage 4 small cell lung. Have you heard of it? Yeah, I've heard of it, of course. Uh, all right, so remember, everyone, there are no types of CFCs. There's only location, because they go through the same process, the exact same process. They have the cell, yeah. So the only difference is location. Wait, where did that question? Who's that? Where did that question go? Joe. Oh, I'm sorry. So, oh wait, but I know. If we were finished talking about the lady as a friend in London, um, I put his name up here on. I've let you all know before. Dr. Ziggy in London, and he's does a lot of things that I would do, and he would allow me to help direct your treatment and therapies. It's not comprehensive, but you know, we just don't all have that. So anyway, um, they're going to start on chemo. So what in local? So for as I was saying, you've got to have her. Your friend has got to be motivated and want to do this. And so if she is motivated and wants to do this, set up a Zoom conference. Bring your laptop to if she's in the hospital. Or let's talk about it because I've got to we all need to know if she wants to do it. If she's, uh, you know, so I need to look at the current labs and all that sort of thing. But most of the people with this don't have to have IPT. Some near the end do, and some have a little bit because they want to just take advantage of getting it while they were there. But most people don't do it, and it's really part of a health plan. So anyway, all right. So okay, stage 4, lung CFCs. First of all, you got to check out the dental because the meridian over, they've got some teeth that are right on the dental meridian. Let's make sure that's not what's going on because as we know, the energy like circuits in our body all connect through our teeth and it's extremely and highly relevant. All right. So um anyway, so but being in your lung like that, we've got to do it. We've got to do a thorough detoxification, and there are lots of therapies we can do. There's intravenous vitamin C to get you up to the therapeutic level. We can use intravenous curcumin. We can use um, intravenous alpha lipoic acid, to get high enough concentrations to be of the value we're looking for. And in that, we should be getting plenty of minerals, lots of minerals, like tons of magnesium. You almost can't get too much. Um, be careful with potassium and sodium. You don't want to overload or underload. Yeah. So anyway, um, when you so I feel like I feel sorry for everyone listening because I feel like I have to say the same thing over and over again because it's really the same thing. But you've got to see the dentist, you've got to do a cleanse, you got to clean out your colon, and then when you resume eating, you have to eat healthy foods. Now with lung, there are some additional things you can do, like you can nebulize Argentin 23, which is the safest and healthiest form of colloidal silver. You can also nebulize NAC, N-acetylcysteine, which can help upregulate the glucose. Um, aerobic to restore aerobic respiration. And chelation, microcirculation. You could do ozone therapies. There's so many therapies you can do. And one therapy that you can do at home is it's with DCA, dichloroacetate. We've talked about that. That actually blocks glucose from going into the mitochondria, so it cannot. I'm sorry, it blocks it from going into the cytoplasm, so it cannot ferment. It can't form lactic acid, which is what CFCs do. And then that's how they grow and propagate. But it makes it so it can only go into the nucleus, which is great because now it either it either goes through the processes of oxidative phosphorylation, which is how we normally make energy, or it'll die. So, that was actually a very clever thing he did. So I see you also using the languages. Oh my gosh. Okay. Uh Keeps turning. Okay, so here's one. He keeps returning to categories like general that people are posting under, and I'm not seeing how to get to that area. So I'm sorry, Joe Cart. Joe Cart, I'm not sure what you're talking about. He keeps referring to categories like general that people are posting under, and I'm not seeing how to get to that area. I'm sorry, I don't quite know what you're asking here. Okay, and here's Debbie. If one gets Bell's palsy from a vax, what would you do next? Well, first of all, is he compromised physically? Is he, how's his breathing and his appetite and all that? So the first thing we want to do when we're going to triage anyone is see, are we in an emergency situation, or more, is it more stable and chronic, and we can deal with it that way. Um, so anyway, he got. Wait, so the question is, if one gets Bell palsy from a vax, what can they do to heal? All right, so Bell's palsy is uh, usually temporary, all right, and it's just because one of the cranial nerves has been forcibly relaxed, um, and usually they do come back, but not that rapidly. So I mean, it could come back. If you were able to resolve it, could come back in a month or two or three, and then not come back for years. And so, um, but what you've got to do to stop it, so even if it was from the bioweapon of Pfizer or not, it doesn't matter. That injection plus all the other injections your friends had throughout their lives, and plus we're living in a toxic world, so we always need to approach it from the same, do the same things. Because remember, anatomically, physiologically, we're the same, right? So yeah, I agree. We have different emotional, psycho-emotional states, but basically, physically, we're all the same. Um, so what are you going to do? Are you gonna take him? I don't know how these. Uh, there's a new piece of equipment we got, and I don't know how well it's working, but I think part of it was going to be to delineate all the different questions so that we don't have to ask the same questions every week. So, we'll have 100 of how, what do you do about X, and then maybe another 300 about how do you deal with Y, just so people can get those answers that they're looking for. And it might even either spark a new question, or it might just be a passing curiosity. But oh, you're welcome, Jennifer, Jeanette. Thank you so much. So thank you for all your expertise. Nothing all of helping on. If one got the Bell's palsy from a vac will be transmitted. No, I don't think so because it's, you know, the Bell's palsy is an byproduct of this, and it was from a larger amount in an injection. You're not going to be getting a large amount in an injection. You might breathe in some of it, or maybe, but I wouldn't I wouldn't even concern myself with that. This is Anita. I'm 67 years old. I found, and last September had a radical hysterectomy. After an ultrasound showed very large fibroids, they had to be removed as part of the pushing against my colon wall. I was diagnosed with GIST T, GIST. The surgeon, I've done this to Simone. The surgeon, without damaging my organs, however, a picture of activity diagnosed to I'm doing everything I can. So where's the question here? Hmm. I'm afraid to do a 3-day fast on 57. Oh, don't listen. It doesn't matter. People in their 90s and hundreds are fasting. Fasting there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. You'll feel wonderful. Just stay hydrated. Make sure you're drinking a lot of fluid, a lot of water. So you were diagnosed with GIST, and you had fibroids that had to be removed. Okay, so anyway, I'm sorry, Anita, but did you actually get you had fibroid surgery? I'm not sure what you're asking. It's a really long, you've had acupuncture, some guidance. The guidance is to really, your story is a very complicated, long one. I couldn't really answer it, but you realize you've got to clean out like we all do. You got to clean out and you got to get nutrients, period, period, period. But in addition to that, is there, so and I don't know. See, you had a radical history. Okay, I got it. I was sure you had it. All right, so that changes some things. So we know for sure we've got to balance your hormones, and there's a lot of things we can do for you. But it'd be cleansing thoroughly, getting someone to help you with biologically identical hormones, for your sex hormones and adrenal hormones like DHEA and pregnenolone. You probably want to get some chelation, like once a week. Um, where is that? Okay. Wow. It's crazy with you. I can't believe what I'm reading here. So your where was that? Your doctor was pushing you to donate your organs. You see, you realize. Wait a minute. I can't remember where I read that because this keeps moving. But look, if a doctor is telling you to donate your organs, get out of there, man. Get out of there. I mean, jeez. You see, I couldn't be practicing in hospitals anymore. I would never ask somebody if they're going to donate their organs. maybe that's a good ethical thing to do, but because if I say that, that means I've already assumed they're going to die. They're not going to make it, and that's not what you want to do, right? If I wrote a thing, I said, "Look, would you like to donate your organs? The due date is not for 50 more years." All right, I'll think about that. But I mean, otherwise, what are we saying? What, next week? Yeah, sure, take them. Your doctor's insane. So that's not your doctor. That's your undertaker. Get out of there. All right. Should I start with a 1 day water fast or go through with a 3 day fast? I get out, like migraines with sleep and nausea about me. All right, so a recent stool test shows that you have parasites. So if you have parasites, treat them. Let me get, take, I don't know what kind you have, but I'm sure they're going to underdose you. They're not going to give you enough to get all the life cycles. So, uh, if if you'd like, you consult me, or yeah, do that, and I'll try to help you. I'll try to be your adversary with this situation. But anyway, so now, uh, if you start with a water fast for 3 days, here's the thing: 3 days is the hardest. And you're saying, should I start with a 1 day water fast? A 1 day water fast is hard too, right? But if you make it through one, you might as well say, hey, I'm going to go for two. And as I've said, once you get to day 4, you're no longer hungry. Your ghrelin has gone down. Your leptin's going up. You just no longer have that gnawing hunger. And then it's easy. And then you can drink a lot of water and stay healthy and do some real cleaning and some real health. But don't think that you need to start with one because you're so sickly or poor energy. That's you don't lose energy from having feces taken out of you. And that's one of the things that happens with a good healthy fast and cleansing, that you do enemas, you clean out the feces, but also during the fast your body's actually cleaning itself, and it's cleaning out the inside of the cells, it's cleaning out the arteries. So it's very good. I don't know what your hesitancy is, except, and if it's about weight, which a lot of people are worried about weight, don't worry. You're not going to lose so much weight that it's not reversible. All right. So unless you're already like cachectic and your body is eating itself, and you would know that. I mean, if you're that thin and the doctors tested you and they said that you're in cachexia or something like that, yeah, of course you're not going to fast, right? But I'm not hearing that. So a 1 day is fine, but it's hardest part up to the 3rd day. The 4th day is like easy. So sure, do any amount you want, but if you can get to 4, you'll be happy. I'm telling you. And that was for shook or shock. Where we go there? Dear Lord, my CFCs kept coming back after 8 surgeries and radiation therapies. I have on mebendazole, ivermectin, and praziquantel since June of 2025. Now my doctor wants me to on Lenvima 24 milligrams daily. Well, why? What happened that they want? Is this like this is new? They want to take you off something and they want to put you on this? What was the reason? What was the reasoning? And I mean, and what did that have to do with the benzone? So are you meaning that you would stop taking? Okay, because they're coming back and coming back. By the way, they never went away. They don't go away because they don't. That's not their goal to take it that far, and they don't know how to anyway. But the best they could hope for is to make it undetectable on some sort of imaging. If they can make it undetectable, then they say you're in remission, when it's not true, because there are microscopic islands all over the place. So you've got, the work is just, it's going to continue, and the work is not work. It's just living a healthy life, which can be fun once you get into it. More fun than living an unhealthy life. But actually, I mean, if you like this oncologist, otherwise change oncologists and look around. I don't know where you live, but look around. And you really don't need one if you find a good holistic or alternative practitioner, integrative practitioner. Which is, remember, we've talked about this many times. If you have a chronic condition, you don't go to the hospitals because they don't know anything about that. They're good at the acute things like, trauma or whatever. But in terms of helping people regain their health, that's not even in their vocabulary. All right. And this is from Joe Cart. How do I make an appointment with you? Call drlodi.com, drlodi.com, or go to the website, drlodi.com. It's hello@drlodi.com. And make an appointment. I'd be happy to see you. All right. Well, hey, Mary, the Daller. That's beautiful. Well, you should join one of the groups, because you'll get alert. There's so much in there, and we have dialogues, but also we have reading lists, and everybody's sharing information. And just you'll learn a lot. It's really a fantastic experience. Hi, Mike from New Zealand, and Mary. Join the groups. New Zealand. All right. Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, so Joe is saying that I keep referring to categories like general that people are posting under, and I'm not seeing how to get to that area. Well, are you a member? If you're a member, then you go to the members portal, and you have access to all that. If you're not a member, then there's no real place to get that information. But what I'm talking about, the protocols are there's a list called the basic program, and this is all the things that one would need to do, or that could do, because you don't necessarily need to do them all. No individual needs to do everything, but anyway, it's pretty comprehensive perspective, and then you go over that. So I don't know your situation, if you're a member or not. So it's if you're not, then you might consider becoming a member. Joe. Okay, Joe. I just don't know if you remember or not. Let me know. Can you let me know, Joe? What can one, where'd it go? What can one do if vitamin C upsets stomach? I've tried vitamin C sprays and liposomal as well. Yeah. So here's the thing. Usually when it bothers your stomach, it's in the sodium ascorbate or ascorbic acid form. It's a powder, or even if it's a buffered one with magnesium and potassium ascorbates in there. They can, because there's a threshold in our gut for above which we cannot absorb it. And when that happens, they stay in the gut. And when you have a lot of things in the gut, they attract water, and you can get, that's what you call an osmotic diarrhea, and you can get that. And but yeah, you're right, Angela. I need to get some sleep today. Yes. But upsetting your stomach, but the liposomal should not upset your stomach. Because I take it every day, and it 2 grams. So the reason it should not upset your stomach is it doesn't go through the normal channel of being absorbed through the intestinal wall. It goes into the lymphatics. and you get a large, you can get a lot large dose. So but you said you've tried it. Maybe you didn't have a good kind. Um, but look under liposomal. I think Sunwire. Is that who makes it? Anyway, they usually come in 1,000 milligram packages, and you can somehow you can either swallow it or you add it to something. But I yeah, because you got to take vitamin C. It's like one of the that's like if there was only one thing, that would be it. You know. So uh what is it? Ah, yeah, I'm really tired. I hate go. Sorry I woke up so early. I don't know why. Let me see if I can add one more. Okay, there's a lot of niclosamide. I see this. They're saying, can niclosamide help mantle cell? Can it help? I think another lady said there's an ovarian, and yeah, niclosamide is pretty amazing, and it shuts down all the pathways that we know get activated in CFCs. And in fact, it's becoming almost like a frontline choice with ovarian. But any osteosarcomas, or you know, and so sarcomas are notoriously hard to treat. But so niclosamide, absolutely, and that's why I always think of the trinity as ivermectin, one of the benzimidazoles, either fenbendazole or mebendazole, and then the third one would be niclosamide. Unless you have definite evidence of like a tapeworm or a liver fluke, then you don't necessarily need praziquantel. But um, I took fenbendazole for the first time, and I started to feel strange. I got a little crazy. Then almost had a panic attack. Did I take too much? Wow. Yeah, how much did you take? I mean, 222 milligrams, even 444 milligrams, with a liver that's not sick, a healthy liver, should not cause a problem. So I don't know if, you know, you had to tell me more, I don't know if you took too much. Or is Okay, so all right. Yeah, I don't know. I doubt if you took too much fenbendazole, and I don't know if what the reaction came from. But if you have a problem with fenbendazole, then don't take it. There are a lot of other choices. You have the ivermectin. Try the mebendazole, 500 milligrams 3 times a day, and then niclosamide. But when you say feel strange things, I'm not sure what you meant. And then feel crazy, and you almost had a panic attack. Uh, I don't know. That doesn't sound. That's not at all what we see with fenbendazole. So make sure that there wasn't something else going on. I don't know on that day for you or whatever. But if you're sure that it was the fenbendazole, you could try taking a little piece of a tablet just to taste, just to swallow it and see if it does anything. You might want to find that out, because if it is fenbendazole, let's say you have an allergy to it or something, or some bizarre, you might have that with the other ones, with the mebendazole and the albendazole. Then you would just best skip those. You know what I'm saying? Uh, what do I think of Dr. Tullio Simoncini? This is from Meg. Um, Actually, I like him. I mean, I thought he was a nice guy. Um, And about his work, he says that CFC cancer is a fungus. It's not anything else. And he always, in his conferences, he always refers to um, well, no, here's a he uses bicarbonate, and he thinks that the bicarbonate is killing the funguses. And it is true that funguses, if you do a culture on a tumor, and if you test for fungus, you're going to always find it because they will be wherever tumors are. They are a symbiotic couple there, right? They help each other because the environment that the CFC produces is what they like, and vice versa. But I know that they are not. I know that CFCs are not a fungus, but they're actually our body going through some changes, and we know that because we can reverse it back to the body. And if it were a fungus, you couldn't reverse it back to being human. So but Simoncini, I think he did some great work. I went out and met him in Italy. Great dinner, and he's a great man. And but the fact is it a fungus? I don't think so. But is the bicarb going to help? Absolutely. Because remember, the one thing you could do is if you could find a way to get bicarbonate and somehow get it into the tumor microenvironment, it'll be over. It'll be over. That's why if we would be able to get a tumor if it was graspable, I would like to inject with bicarb, not with chemo or anything that's going to hurt. Just with bicarb, right? Because unfortunately, you can't, like, no matter how much bicarb you took orally, the most you're going to do is alkalinize your stomach, but you're not going to alkalinize your body. So yeah, but that's what Samancini. So, but what he learned is that you cannot give it orally or IV. The best way to do it is to find the artery that's feeding the tumor, and then just inject it in there. Right? And he started to do that. I have a patient right now who he did that with him like 18 years ago. So anyway, it's time to go. But boys and girls, thank you this week, and I'll get some sleep for next week. And number two, I'm gonna make an announcement about the groups. We might make some changes. They'll all be good changes and more affordable and all that. So we're gonna make a couple changes. But stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next week. And then I think next week I'm gonna spend more time on answering these questions, these live questions. Maybe just actually set alarm for 1 hour and 1 hour. All right, and then I got to figure out a way to do it because people that ask questions early on, I can't see them. So maybe I can have Hammy or someone help me collect your questions right there, and then I can just do it that way because I can't really tell. I know these are the newer ones. Anyway, it just takes time to do that. So I'm gonna have her help me. So we'll spend the second hour answering the questions in real time, and then the first hour answering other questions that people have sent in. All right. But Kamaru, we got to talk. You got to not contact me. How do I make an appointment? drlodi.com. There's the website, dr there, lodi.com. So you go there and join the group. In the group, if you're in the CFC group, you're going to have automatic membership in the other two, the parasite and the health and healing. And that means you'll have a group Zoom meeting with us twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. And then every Tuesday is another one with Darren and Vanessa, and then Fridays will be with a raw chef. And well, if you have CFCs, you're automatically eligible for Kathy's Corner, which is amazing. Everyone just really loves it. It's a place to just hang out and share feelings and get guidance from Kathy. She's a psychotherapist, so it's really quite nice. But And then we're getting a new raw chef who'll be starting with us soon. You'll love him. So anyway, aloha, sawadee kap, namaste.